Hi, this screencast is going to demonstrate how to install DrupalPro. DrupalPro Development Desktop is a VirtualBox virtual machine that's built on Ubuntu 12.04. It is currently in beta release. At the moment it is only in a 32-bit environment, but that's okay because a 32-bit environment virtual machine will work in either a 32-bit operating system or 64-bit operating system. So what we're going to do is follow the instructions. I am currently installing this on a MacBook Pro. It's a 2012 version, not the latest, greatest version, but still pretty powerful. It does have a multi-core machine and it has 8 gigs of RAM installed in it. I already have VirtualBox installed. I have version 4.1.18. So we're going to skip that step and we're going to go right to the next step, which is download the image, and then once we do that we're going to do the import, and then we're going to get it up and running. So to get it up and running, we're going to scroll up to this link here and we're going to click on that link, and that is actually going to take us to Google Docs, and we're going to click on this paper icon and we are going to click on this download button. And even though it says we can't scan this for viruses, the file size is too big, click on the download anyway link. Now I'm going to download this to my desktop. You can download it to wherever you need to find it again. I'm going to click the save button and then I'm going to pause the recording of this because it's about a 2 gigabyte file and it's going to take a little while for it to download. So as soon as this gets done, I will be back. Okay, so I've downloaded the file and I put it on my desktop. So now we're going to continue with the instructions. So we're going to start VirtualBox, import the file, or do the file, import appliance, and then choose the file. Now there's a couple other messages here that we have to be aware of. Setting the RAM, I'm going to show you what I do on my systems. Multi-core CPU, I do have one of those, so I will take that into consideration. And then depending upon your setup, you may need to disable this host-only network card, and that will show up on this installation. So I'll show you how to set that up or disable that to make sure that it works correctly. There's also going to be another issue that we're going to run into. So once we get it up and running and we do the upgrade, there's an issue that we have to take care of. So let's get started. So I'm going to go to my Oracle VirtualBox Manager, and if you notice, I've already got a version of this installed. So basically I'm just going to use this OVA file and I'm going to install another virtual machine using that same installation profile, or same OVA file. So I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Import Appliance, I'm going to choose, I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to click on that .ova file and I'm going to hit Open. It recognizes that. I'm going to hit Continue. Now here's where there's some of those parameters come in as far as multi-core CPUs and RAMs. One thing, I did already have one installed, so notice that it automatically appended this _1 to it, and that's how you could run multiple versions of the same virtual machine on your host system. So what I'm going to do is, because it's multi-core, I'm going to go ahead and give it 2 CPUs. And again, I run multiple virtual machines, and past experience with me and Linux distributions tells me that most of them run really well in about 2 gigs of memory. You can give them more, you can give them less, but 2 gigs seems to be about the sweet spot for me. And like I said, I run multiple virtual machines, so I don't want to give them too much, otherwise they'll start bumping heads against each other. So I'm going to give it 2 gigs, and that's 2048. Now there's also some other parameters, a couple of network cards, we'll get back to that, a couple of virtual disks images. We don't need to mess with those. The only other thing I'm going to do here is just I'm going to reinitialize the MAC addresses of all the network cards. So that's all set up, and I'm going to go ahead and hit import. Alright, so there's a couple of messages on this pop-up box. It's a GPLv2. There's a couple messages and warnings in here. One thing to be aware of with an appliance such as this is the usernames and the passwords for those usernames are pretty well known. So you may want to look into maybe changing the passwords. Also, another thing, you may not want to run this with a bridged network setup unless you're behind a firewall or have taken other steps to make sure that people can't access your virtual environment from the internet, which is possible in a bridge network environment. So we're going to leave that alone for now, and we're just going to agree. And now it's going to say, okay, I'm going to import this. Now, this message you get up here, this time remaining, I've seen that message go as high as 15, 20 minutes. Experience on this machine, my machine, 5 to 6 minutes, usually tops. So what I'm going to do though is, again, I'm going to pause the video just simply because, well, you don't want to watch that. So as soon as it gets done, I'll be back. And we're back. So now we've got two versions of DrupalPro. This is the original one, and this is the new one that I've just installed. So before we start this thing up, we're going to go take a look at the settings files for this. And if you notice, as soon as we bring this up, we get this invalid settings detected. And actually, if you hover over it, it'll say, on the Network Adapter 2 page, there's a problem. And if you remember from the notes of the installation, it said you might have to take care of that host-only adapter. So we're going to go right to the network page. This is adapter 1. It's enabled, and it's just a NAT adapter. That's fine. We're going to go to adapter 2. It's also enabled, and this is that host-only adapter. So we're going to disable that. And as soon as we do that, notice that the message goes away, that there's a problem. Now, there is another issue that needs to be taken care of, but we're not going to do that right now, and that's the shared folders. Obviously, this was created on a Windows machine, as only Windows machines use that D:// identifier for the hard drive or partition. For the moment, we're just going to leave this alone. We're not going to change it. We're just going to click on OK. We'll get another pop-up message box to say, there's a problem, but we're going to ignore that too. So we're good to go. It's highlighted. We're going to click on the green arrow to go start, and it's going to bring up the virtual machine. There's the warning to say, sure, folders isn't set up correctly. Just click on OK, and it'll go away. And again, we will fix that in the future. It might be a second screencast. So the machine's coming up, and it's up. So here's the new look and feel for the DrupalPro Development Desktop. This is the Unity interface. Normal desktop here, although this has a brand new wallpaper, which has some neat bubbles and some instructions. And then also on the side, and you do get to put folders and stuff on the desktop, but also on the left-hand side, it's got this list, like a menu, a combination menu, but also what's running applications list. So you can click on any of these buttons and launch the application, excuse me, and then once the application is up and running, it'll have little lights next to it to say that you've already got it running. One of the other things is Dash, and if you click on Dash, you get this kind of heads-up display, I think they call it, and just a transparent window that if you want to launch an application, you can just start typing in the name of that application, and then it'll start to show up. So for example, now that we've got this running, what the first thing we're going to do, and here's the thing, we don't know, well, we can find out, but this is an application, and this application could have been created yesterday, it could have been created 6 months ago, it could have been created a year ago, and we don't know exactly what its state is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run the upgrade manager to get this up to the latest, greatest version of all the software that's supposed to be running on it. So update manager pretty much, actually it launched by itself because it noticed that updates needed to be done. And if you'll notice, there's 190 updates that need to be done. So just to be on the safe side though, we're going to click the check button, and what it's going to do is going to go back up to the internet, look at the repositories, and say, this is what I think I'm supposed to upgrade. Is there anything else that I'm not aware of? And if there is anything new, it'll download a new list, and then it'll give you the option of upgrading all those. So what you'll notice is, yes, there were some changes. There was originally 190 updates, now there's 206. One of the other things you need to know is there's actually a new Linux kernel that's available for this operating system. Kernels don't get upgraded that often, but when they do, it's probably a good idea to install it. But also be aware that if you do install a new kernel, you will have to reboot the machine in order for it to recognize the new kernel. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're just going to click on the Install Updates button, and then it's going to require a password, which again for this is the DrupalPro user, and the password for the DrupalPro user is DrupalPro. So we're going to type that in. And then we're going to hit the Authenticate button. And it's going to start downloading the latest, greatest versions of the software and the kernel and anything else, configuration files, anything else that it needs to download and then upgrade to get the Ubuntu 12.04 to the latest, greatest version of everything. Now, this takes a while sometimes, depending upon how many upgrades and uploadings and downloading and your internet speed and so on and so forth. So just to be on the safe side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this video until it's done. So we'll be back. And we're back, but we have a problem. Let me just state this. I've installed this appliance multiple times, got the same error message, this in configuring Grub PC. I've tried numerous things to get around it, to install it what I would consider proper. None of them seem to work. So I have a workaround, but before I tell you what the workaround, let me just say this. I assure you that Grub is correctly installed in this operating system. It works correctly. You can restart the virtual machine and it reboots. You can shut the machine down and come back later and click start and it will restart. So my honest answer to this is I'm not exactly sure what the problem with this is, and I will do my best to work with the developer to get this squared away. It's just something's amiss, and it will have to be fixed. But in the meanwhile, this is your workaround for when you see this message when you do the upgrade. Normally, you would install it on the SDA. I've tried it. It doesn't work. It just keeps coming back. It says, nope, sorry, that's not good enough. So, but what, and again, it works. It's installed correctly. It's not a problem. So what you're going to do is actually you're just going to click on this forward button. And then when you get to the next window, there's a message or a question, continue installing without Grub. And you're actually going to check the checkbox. And basically you're going to say, yeah, continue without installing Grub. Again, it's installed. It works. It's not a problem. And then click on forward. Sounds goofy, but that's the way it works. Again, hopefully we'll get this fixed in the near future. And I'm just going to let it keep running because now it's basically done doing all its upgrades and installs. And again, because we installed a new kernel, you need to restart the machine to have it recognize the new kernel. So we're going to click on restart now. And I'm specifically going to let this roll. It may take a little time. Again, a lot of times when you install a new kernel, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes to make sure everything's up to snuff. I'm not going to pause this. It may take a minute, but I'm just going to let it roll so that you can see that it actually does work and it does reboot. And it's almost back up. And it's back up. So it's still doing a little bit more updating, as you can see by the kind of clock cursor. So we'll let that finish before we do anything else. But again, it sounds like a goofy workaround, but it's the only way I can get it to work to that GUI interface that would allow me to keep on going. So now that we've got Ubuntu 12.04 upgraded to the latest, greatest version of the software that comes along with the operating system, we're going to do one more thing. And this is VirtualBox, and included with VirtualBox is a utility called VirtualBox Guest Editions. And what Guest Editions supplies is the various views that you can go full screen or seamless or scale, or if you have a USB stick and stick it into the USB drive on the host machine, it will allow you to read that USB stick in the guest operating system. So what we're going to do is we're going to install the latest greatest version of the guest editions. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go all the way up to the top of the window, click on devices, and then click on install guest editions. And what this does is it kind of installs a virtual CD drive and mounts the CD. But what it does is it comes up with this little box. It says, do you really want to run this? And you're going to say yes. So you just click on run. And two boxes pop up. And again, this is a root thing, so you need to be super user. And again, that's DrupalPro. And the password for DrupalPro is DrupalPro. And click authenticate. And now it's going to go over to the terminal window, and it's going to notice that, hey, there's a different version of guest editions on here. Are you sure you want to continue? And you type in yes and hit the enter key. And then what it does is actually removes the old version of guest editions and builds and installs the new version of guest editions. And this usually doesn't take too long, so I'm just going to let the video roll. And now it's done. Now what I want to draw your attention to is this little message on here. Well, first off, it's done, it's done, it's done, it's done, everything's done. Here, you should restart your guest to make sure, and then actually there's another message that says you may need to restart the health service and the Windows system, or just restart the guest system. And that's actually the easiest way to do this. So we're just going to press return to close the window, and we're going to go all the way to the upper right hand corner of the virtual machine, the gear, click it, click on shut down, and then click on restart. So now it's going to bring the virtual machine down, and then it's going to turn around and it's going to bring it right back up again. And when it comes back up, it will have the Ubuntu 12.04 with a new kernel and all the latest greatest additions to the software that are running on it and the applications. And then it's also going to have the latest greatest version of VirtualBox Guest Editions. And that will pretty much be it for the installation of the DrupalPro Development Desktop. And we're back. Okay, so just to see one of those guest edition enhances, if we go up to view, we can go switch to full screen. And basically what it looks like is your entire desktop screen, or laptop, or in my case, laptop screen, is completely filled with the Ubuntu desktop. So it makes it look like if I was just running Ubuntu desktop. Another way to do this too is actually if you hold down, again on a Mac, I think on a Linux machine with the typical Windows keyboard, it's the super key, which is the Windows key. If you hold down on a Mac, hold down the control and hit the F key, it takes you out of full screen mode. Actually, you can see with those keyboard shortcuts. Host, what that says is actually if you look all the way down here, that tells you what your host key definition is. So on this one, it's the right command key and then the F or the L if I wanted to go to seamless mode. And again, that's one of the nice things that Guest Editions supplies you. Plus the cut, copy, and paste from your host environment to your guest environment, which is really neat. And then also, if you do go non full screen mode, the mouse will move back and forth between the environments, whereas before it used to get hung up. So good thing to get that up to date. So we're done. We're installed. We're upgraded. VirtualBox Guest Editions is upgraded, and you are now ready to use the DrupalPro Development Desktop to create Drupal websites. So that is it for this screencast. I'm going to try to create a second screencast, which will A, show you how to fix that shared folders issue, and then B, show you some of the things that I do within this environment to help make me more productive. And that's including bringing SSH keys over, my git config and git ignore files, Vim parameters and bundles to be installed in this environment to make, I use Vim to make it easier for me to work within Vim for coding purposes. So that will be in a future screencast. So that's it for now. Thanks.